Okay, so 3.5 is where we are today. We're talking about slope. So before I would tell you stuff about slope, I decided to just ask and see if you could tell me stuff about slope. This is all things we've encountered. If you had geometry, you've seen this. If you've had Algebra 1, you've seen this. I think during the PSAT review, we talked a decent bit about slope. Can anybody tell me anything about slope?
Y equals mx plus b.
Okay, that's coming. Y equals mx plus b is coming. We're a day, I think, away from y equals mx plus b.
Change in x and change in y.
Okay, one formula for slope is you can write, what did you say?
Change in x over, change in y over change in x.
Change in y on top of change in x is one of the slope formulas. There's other ones out there.
y1 and y1 plus y2 over x1 plus x2.
That's close. Minus.
Thanks, mate.
That could work as a formula for slope.
Can't you do the same thing but put the 2's instead?
We could do the same thing but subtract backward. Go something like y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's all true. Anybody else remember anything about slope?
There was one more.
There is one more formula for it. There's other facts we know about slope too. There's different types of slope. It's a whole other category. No, slope intercept is going to come tomorrow. The y equals mx plus b. We dropped that in a second ago. That doesn't make the board, but that's a good thing to still be in our brain. Anybody remember basically what slope measures? Steepness, okay? It measures how steep a line is. So slope measures steepness. If you're in the local neighborhood, the slope of Pillow Avenue is not the same as the slope of Pittsburgh Street. Those are two very different steepnesses. If you don't believe me, go walk on those two roads. Anybody with types of slope concepts or have that other formula somewhere in your brain?
Bro, it's right there, I swear to you.
It's an R word.
Run over rise, rise over run.
Rise over run is a thing.
Yes!
Basically, you want to measure how much you have a change vertically. So we could either call that the change in y with the Greek letter. What Greek letter is that? Delta. So this is a Greek letter. It just means changing. So we need to figure out how much of a vertical change we have. You could call that the change in y. You could find that by subtracting y's. You could call that the rise. You could call that what you want to call it. The bottom is the x change, which you could do by subtracting. You could do by that symbol. You could call that the run. But we need those two measurements. These are all going to be fractions to start with. Types of slope. There's 4 different types of slope that exist in math world. Anybody a type of slope? So there's 4 ways that we could do our lines.
What?
There's 4 ways I could set up a line and it can have four different types of slope.
Would it be just like all the way on the x-axis?
Okay.
Just like only on the x-axis.
Okay, so we can have a line go like this. So a line like this has a certain type of slope.
It's just 0.
It is 0. So anytime we get a horizontal line that has 0 slope, that's true. That is one of 4 options.
Like straight up is impossible.
If we go vertical line that has no slope, that is impossible. You can't have that slope.
Positive slope.
Positive slope. So if we go uphill, that is a positive slope.
This way is negative slope.
And therefore, if we go downhill, that's a negative slope. To tie this into stuff we did a couple sections ago, was this a y equals line or was this an x equals line? Because yesterday in school terms, it was Friday actually in regular calendar, you graphed one line on your quiz that went like this. Was that? It's a 50-50 guess?
I think it's
It's y. So that makes this line be
X equals
x. So if you're ever given any x equals line, that's going to go vertical, that has no slope. Any y equals line goes horizontal, that has a 0 slope. That's slope information that's somewhere was already in your brain, whether it's stock or not, whether you can find it or not, I don't know, but it's out there now. Question about that. So the first part of the homework is just going to ask you to find some slopes. I'm going to go to this one first because I think it's easier with the positive numbers. So for the top, who should we attack out of 3, 4, 5, or 11?
5 minus 3.
Disagree?
Well, 11 minus 4 on top.
11
and
minus 4
5
on
minus
top.
3
So we always want to do the y's on the top. So some people might want to do 4 minus 11. Other people might prefer to do 11 minus 4. It doesn't really matter which way you go when you first start it. But once you start it, you're stuck with a certain order. If one person decides to do 4 minus 11, they're locked in to then do 3 minus 5 and stay in that order. If somebody else did 11 minus 4, they're locked into 5 minus 3. Either way, what's the answer going to be? 7 over 2 positive. Why is this one going to turn out positive even though you got a bunch of negatives? Okay, so negative divide negative, it's got to turn out positive. Question about that one. So the next one for the top, who would you get after?
6 minus 2.
6 and 2. 6 minus this 2 or 6 minus that 2?
That 2.
That 2. So we're going to go 6 minus 2. If we do 6 minus 2, you do 2 minus 9. Answer?
Negative 4 on top of 7.
Yeah, it's going to be 4 on top of 7 for sure. And then there's a negative involved. Where could I put the negative? Anyway, either with the 4, or with the 7, or just out in front. It doesn't matter where you put the negative, but somebody's got to be negative.
But is this the top and the bottom or negative? Don't think there's a
No,
lot.
the top's, one's positive, one's negative.
Oh.
So if we go 6 minus 2 is positive, 2 minus 9 negative. If we go in reverse, 2 minus 6 negative, but 9 minus 2 positive, we'll get it different.
I was good.
Okay, you're good? Perfect. Third one, top.
8 minus 6.
8 minus 6 is fine. Once we do 8 minus 6, we're stuck
5
with 5 minus 1. Temporary answer, 2/4. Best answer, 1/2. Question about those where it was all positives in my problem, so that made the subtract a little different. These get a little bit harder because we're subtracting negatives. So what's one of the subtracting negative scenarios that we should remind each other of?
Minus minus.
Minus minus makes pluses a thing sometimes. And also a negative minus a positive,
Bigger negative.
bigger negative. So those two rules need to be in mind. Top doesn't matter, subtract in some order.
What do negative 7 minus 3?
Negative 7 minus
Negative 3.
negative 3. If we do negative 7 minus negative 3, bottom's got to go
4 minus negative 2.
4 minus negative 2.
Negative 4.
Top is negative 4,
6.
bottom is 6. Best answer?
Negative 2/3.
Negative 2/3. Question about that, especially the negative subtraction sometimes gets people. Algebra 1, every year that I taught Algebra 1, every time, there was at least one quiz that made me sad because it was close to perfect, but unfortunately was like a 0. Don't do what we started to do with these formulas. What did we almost do with every single one of the formulas when we wrote them?
Extras.
Upside down. Yeah, it's all y's on top, it's x's on the bottom. If you get them all upside down, you're gonna not do well. This one, top,
7 minus 7.
7 minus 7, bottom,
3 minus negative 2.
3 minus negative 2. Best answer, 0. If you get 0 on the top, you're gonna get 0. This one,
Negative 5 minus 3.
negative 5 minus 3,
Negative 4 minus negative 4.
negative 4 minus negative 4. Impossible. If you get 0 on the bottom, that's going to be impossible. This, if we did graph these 2 points would be on a stack on top of each other. It's a vertical line situation. That's another reason that's no slope. If we graph these, they'd be side by side, like a y equals line, a 0 slope kind of thing. Question on that? Last one, I went crazy and threw some fractions and some negatives and all sorts of stuff there. So top,
Negative 5/8 minus negative 3/4.
agree. Let's just do, well, let's set the other part up.
2/3 minus -1/2.
Agreed. I don't know, scratch paper or something somewhere, somebody do that top out. You're gonna have to do common denominators, that's gonna make you change the tops. It is 1/8. How much sixths? Not 1/6.
7?
7/6. Why 7/6?
Add.
Yeah, the minus makes plus. That's not a great final answer, but let's clean up to how we got to there if we need to. Does anybody need help with the 1/8? Or the 7/6? Anybody bothered by the fraction subtraction? Anybody a thought now on how we bail ourselves out of this messy looking thing?
By 1/6 by,
Yeah.
or 1/8 by 6.
Look at this, not as a fraction bar, but as a division symbol. So the top wants to divide the bottom. What happens when you divide a fraction? You flip it. So we have 1/8, we go upside down 6/7. We get something that at first might reduce, or you could avoid that with a quick cancel. Final,
3/28.
3/28. Question about that? What would this mean on a piece of graph paper? How would the line be traveling if it has a slope of 1/2? Up 1/2. This is the change in y, that's how much it would go up. This is the change in x. Every time this line went up a square, it would go over 2. What would this line be doing?
Up 4 over 2.
Um,
Down 4, I didn't see the
Down 4, and then to the right 7. Always go right as you graph, work from left to right. This would have to take a pretty big piece of graph paper because to find another corner, you'd have to go
28.
up 3
Right.
and right 28 more squares to clip another corner of a square. Question about that, that's probably the most important thing. It's also the most probably basic thing of the day is just computing the slope fractions. Question about computing slope fractions. Okay, so the first part of the homework, I'll ask you to do that. The second part of the homework is just going to give you x equals or y equals lines and ask you if they have 0 slope or no slope. So that's going to be pretty easy because every y equals equation has a slope of 0 and every x equals equation has no slope. Last thing of the day is to introduce you to a thing called point slope form. So point slope form, they didn't pick this name at random. It's called point slope form because they're going to have to give you a point, an ordered pair, and tell you the slope. So anytime you're told an ordered pair of a point and they tell you a slope and they ask you to write an equation, we just need to follow this format. So I'm going to call this x number 1. I'm going to call this y number 1. The slope, the letter for the slope is, was, and always will be m. I don't know why. Probably has something to do with Greek, I would guess, and Greek words or something. But m is the variable for slope. We just need to plug into this format. The letter y minus the y that we know from the ordered pair equals the slope that we'll have to know. And then in parentheses, x minus the x that we know from the ordered pair. If you feel like you've seen that before, it's because you saw that before. It was in geometry, if you took geometry yet, and if you didn't, it was in the Algebra 1. So if I tell you my point that I need to go through is 2, 3, I would go y minus the 3, and later on I would do x minus the 2. Let me change this just so I don't have double 2's. Let me make the slope of 4. The slope we're going to throw in front. So that would be an equation written in point slope form. Question about that? They'll usually want the final answer to look different. What can we do to make this a little bit more algebra, less sizable? Distribute. So y minus 3 would equal 4x minus 8. Well, one more thing could we do to just get some collection going? Add the 3. So usually you want to get the y alone, and we'll get more into that tomorrow, the y equals mx plus b stuff. But if we add the 3, it's still a 4x, but minus 5. Somebody whispered that's correct. Question about that? We'll do one more of those. They're the same every time, which is good, but there's more involved in that than anything else we did today. So here I go y minus 2. Later on down the line in parentheses, I would do x
Minus -5.
minus minus 5. In other words, add 5. And then here stick
-2/5.
negative 3/5. Question about that creation. Okay, then what generally will we do? Distribute. So negative 3/5 x, and then these are friendly because we can just go negative 3 because the 5s will cancel. So best answer, y equals negative 3/5 x. 1 with a 1. Minus 1 is correct. If we add the 2, it's not quite enough to get us out of the negative territory. It's a little bit still negative. Question. 2 quick things I want to do more than that. So quick thing 1 is just peek at 133 with you. Make sure you feel homework ready. The 133 homework, the first 16 are like these. They're going to ask you to do the slope fractions. Just do it up the way we did a lot of those already. 17 to 32, they're either 0 slope or no slope. So that's going to be a quick running section. Anything with just a y is 0 slope. Anything with just an x is a no slope. And then the last 8 from 33 to the end, you'd use this equation to set up a point slope equation. Just do a little bit of distributing and get the y alone. Anybody, anything from the board, anything peeking at 133 that makes you feel uncertain about
The last
anything?
section too.
The last section goes to 40. Yeah, we're up to 40.
Okay.
Anything about that? Second thing to do out of that list of 2, last project of the day, is to lay a little bit of a foundation for a vocab quiz we'll have coming up someday when the chapter ends. These are a variety of notes that'll take us up through section 8. Let's fill in what we can. So 1 to 11, we know some stuff. There's 4 forms of linear equations, and then there's things that they're good for. We know some of that. Anybody a form of linear equations?
Is that just the 4?
No.
So this is like what we did on the
This is some of what we've done in the past, some of what we did today, some of what we'll do in the future. We don't know all of these answers for 1 to 11, but we know some of 1 to 11, 4 forms of linear equations. There's standard form. We did standard form a couple sections ago. That made the quiz. So 1 to 11, standard form is a point. We're going to do an equation for that. Does anybody remember the equation for standard form? That's correct. AX plus BY equals C is what we're using. The internet, some sites disagree with us. Our book actually disagrees with us. But we're going to say AX plus BY equals C. And what do we do with those? When the equations were in standard form, what do we do with that? Because there was some of that also on the quiz that you did Friday. If it said like 3x plus 5y equals 15, that's standard form. You found intercepts. By intercepts, I mean what?
5, 0.
Yeah, like we do 0 in one slot or the other. If I do 0 for the x, you shoot out 3. If I do 0 for the y, we shoot out 5. Okay, so you don't have to write all that down. But what we want to say here for the first 3 points is standard form, ax plus by equals c. It's good for finding intercepts, intercepts. If I spelled that too fast, just look at number 26. Another form. Yeah,
Is point slope?
point slope. Yeah, we did that today. So point slope is another title. The equation for point slope is this. If you wanted to do zeros instead of ones, it's sometimes written with zeros instead of ones for the subscripts. That little number doesn't mean anything other than this is just straight out the letter Y. Okay, when I put Y1 or Y0 or Y2 or put a subscript on it, that means that's a number we know. It's not like a letter that we leave a letter, it's a number going to replace the letter. So it's Y minus something equals slope, parentheses, X minus something. Just copy that onto the notes page. And what that's good for, I didn't explicitly tell you, but that's good for writing an equation. Okay, 98% of the time in your life, if it's on an SAT, and it's in a calculus class, it's in an algebra class, it's wherever you might be, if you're asked to write an equation, when you're asked to write an equation, this is 98% chance your go-to move. There's another one we know, but it'll be more in the notes tomorrow, so we'll just hang on till tomorrow for the rest of this 1 to 11 stuff. But there is another one that we do know up on this group. Question about the 6 answers so far we did on this top 11. Okay, number 12 was provided to us already by Nicole. Anybody remember what she said number 12 was for? Steepness is correct. So 12 is steepness. 13, 14 we did today. How many formulas did I do? 4. So pick 2. I erased 2 of them already, but there used to be 4 formulas in these 4 slots. Just pick 2 of those 4 formulas and we're good on those. 15 to 18, are we ready to do that or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Positive slope,
Like,
uphill, negative slope, downhill, 0 slope,
this way.
go flat, no slope, go vertical. 19 we've had before. Have we had it this year?
No.
No, so wait on that. 20, had it already or wait? Wait. I think that's coming in 3.7, probably. 21, had it or wait? Had it. X equals lines? I can't do. Those are the vertical ones. That's an impossible slope. 22, 0. 23, can we do it?
Yeah.
Yep, we just did. That's what this was about. So how would that one go?
Y plus 2.
1 plus 2 equals
6.
6.
In parentheses, X minus 4.
In parentheses, X minus 4. And since the direction said to just set it up, you don't need to distribute and do all that stuff. Okay, on the homework, we'll distribute and do all that stuff. But for this, I just want to see if you could set it up. 24, based on this year's book knowledge, do it or wait?
Wait.
I'd say wait. That'll be tomorrow. 25, do it or wait?
Yeah.
Do it. When did we do that? Today. Like 10 times right here. Maybe 8 times, whatever that was there. Do it for a second and tell me what you think final answer would be.
2 over negative 3.
Yeah, 2/3, but someone's negative. So whether you do -2 on a 3, whether you do a 2 on a -3, whether you do a 2 on a 3, throw the negative in front, that doesn't really matter. 26 we have done. You could explain it one of 2 ways, really. Anybody an explanation of intercepts? We could go with that. If you're thinking about a graphing setting, it would be where a graph touches the axes. AXES is the plural of axis. If you don't want to use the word axes, you'd have to say where a graph touches the x-axis or the y-axis. But it's easier to say a point where a graph touches the axes. That would be a fine explanation. I'm good with that. What's another way we could explain intercepts? What are these called? Parentheses with a common ordered pair. It's an ordered pair that has a 0 in it. That would work for me too. So it's either a point where a graph touches the x-axis, y-axis, or you could say it's an ordered pair that has a 0 in it. If you have an ordered pair that has a 0 in it, you have intercepts. I'd even be fine if you just wrote this. 0, number, 0.
Actually?
Let's put that on your page. I'm good with that. That explains to me the concept when I see that. We'll fill the rest of that in a little bit maybe tomorrow, a little bit maybe the next day. Once it's all filled in, this will be a quiz toward the end of the chapter. We're going to do sections 5, 6, 7, 8, and then there's another quiz coming in our way probably late this week. I'm guessing maybe Monday, but maybe late this week, somewhere in about a week, there's another quiz for you. So 133 was the homework page, quiz someday. Anybody have last minute questions or concerns?